a hearty welcome, everybody. I'm so pleased that you've all joined us on this lovely summer's evening in Cape Town. But it's amazing as the months roll in now and the weather changes in different parts of the world. I see light in the northern part of the hemisphere. And now that we've started, it's dark outside. Last month, it was still light. We've got such a inspiring and interesting guest tonight. We have Chris Roland, who I was privileged to go and experience one of his amazing sound bath healing sessions with my dear cousin, actually, who's in the house, Janine, and it was absolutely profound. What I really loved is how Chris gave us a tiny little sort of slice of the power of, in the verbal description of it, in the power of the sound resonance and the resonance of our own vibration. And I really wanted to see if I could take this a little bit further this evening. Chris has traveled all over the world. He's well acclaimed as a director and a writer in the film industry for many years. And has taken the path of a sound healer. He does counseling, offers sound bath sessions, and he did a diploma in integral sound healing. So a lot of information, a lot of wisdom to share. And I'm just really looking forward to the conversation with Chris. So Chris, welcome to my kitchen.
Hello.
Hi. I see you have all your beautiful instruments sort of in the background, in the foreground.
I have about 40 instruments, but I've only pulled out a few of them because I'd be too confined and confusing to pull them all out. But yeah, lovely to be here and to chat with you. And I remember you coming to the sound bath. I always have this memory of you because you had a tattoo on one of your arms.
I do.
Yes.
I have my let's take this off. I have my dragonfly tattoo. So yes, well remembered.
When I walked around with the instruments, when I do that during the sound bath, and I see people and I saw your tattoos, oh, what a lovely tattoo.
Yes, thank you. Transformation, dragonfly and transformation. Yeah. But this evening is dedicated to you sharing your passion and your gift with music. And I want you to just start off, just give us a little explanation of how you got started. And I know that you went traveling and you've done a vast amount of traveling. How did you get into this industry?
Well, it's interesting because Michael, I see, Mike was probably a real musician and who I was speaking to earlier. So yes. I've been kind of a pseudo muso for all of my life, peripheral to what I do in the entertainment industry. And I've got a set of keyboards sitting there, and I've got an acoustic electric guitar over there, and I had a big full set of drums. I was predominantly a drummer, and I never played them traditionally. So I didn't really learn a lot of song because I didn't really like that side of it. I adore music. I'm very eclectic taste in music. I listen to music all day long. I write a lot, so I'm always listening to music when I'm writing. And I always wondered why am I not pursuing music with all these very traditional instruments that I had for such a long time, and I could never understand it, but I just kind of went along with it, right? And then one day I went to a gong bath about 5-6 years ago. And during this gong bath, she had a really huge gong and a couple of gongs. And I was mesmerized by this gong bath. I said, oh my God, what was that I just went through? It was amazing. And then I moved to Bali. I was living in Bali for a short while. And they have a place there called the Pyramids of Chi.
Yeah.
And the Pyramids of Chi are two sound pyramids that are built there. And they're specifically for sound baths and sound journeys and sound healing. And I went to one of those, and it was full instrumentation in the center. And at the end of that hour and a half, I walked out of, first of all, I was the last person out. I couldn't get up. I was so overwhelmed by what I had just experienced. And when I finally did get up and walk out, the lady who was the facilitator, who did the sound bath, I just walked up and picked her up and literally off her feet and just held her and hugged her. I said, wow, thank you. Because I was so blown away. And what was very interesting for me is that I realized shortly thereafter that the reason I hadn't been playing traditional kind of music was all of these instruments that I now have were waiting for me. And so I can still play the keyboards. I play the keyboards, always have played for a stream of consciousness. I have electric keyboards. And I can play those stream of consciousness, which I really like. Guitar, less so. You can't really play that stream of consciousness. And that's the kind of music that I like to play. And so one day I just, got a bug up my bum and I said, let me go back and study. So I studied for a year and I got a diploma in integral sound healing. And lo and behold, here we are. And knock wood, although that's glass, knock wood. It seems to be working. People I see, Janine is here and others that have been through it. It seems to be working for them. And so I'm quite blessed that way. And now I can't get enough.
I love that. I absolutely love that. I also, my first introduction to sound bath healing sessions was a couple of years ago. I was actually told, and you spoke and you touched on it, so I want you to take this a little bit further. I went through quite a health issue. And one of the first things that I was told, I had West and Eastern doctors, but one of the things that was recommended was go and have a sound healing session. At the time I was going through cancer. And so I did.
Were you told that by a traditional medical doctor?
No, an integrated oncologist.
Well, but still, somebody who's in modern medicine, so that's encouraging. I love hearing that.
Yes, absolutely. And so this was very exciting, and it led me to do a little bit of reading at the time. I did whatever I could, wherever I was guided, I did. I didn't have time because I had to start treatment to go and do more sessions. But I know that, and you touched on it and they had touched on it back then, was how we all resonate at a certain frequency.
Yes.
And obviously, so various instruments pick up frequency, and music can then, so the sessions can then do a lot of healing work. Can you speak about that a little bit more? Go into more of that. I really love the science of it. I'm just not versed in description of it.
Well, one of the, I say that this is my medicine now, and it truly is. And I'd been invited to do other types of modalities, and I resisted for a variety of reasons. And I think one of the reasons was because this was waiting for me. And so this for me is my medicine. So what you're talking about, so the human body, the physical body resonates from 9 to 16 hertz. But our organs within our body, our head, our brain, or even our arms, our hands, and so forth, they all vibrate at a vastly different array of frequencies. So when we're healthy, we're vibrating at what is called natural resonance, meaning that all of the frequencies that our liver is vibrating at, our liver starts at around 9 hertz and resonates all the way up to 100 megahertz. So, and so on and so forth. And so when all of these organs are in harmony with one another, meaning they're vibrating at each of their natural resonance, then we are in a healthy state. When we get out of a healthy state, we find that our different parts of our body are now resonating out of harmony, in disharmony with itself, out of its natural resonance. And when you have one part of the body that is not resonating and harmonizing with the rest of the body, of course, we're going to be at ease. So what a sound bath does is to bring people back into harmony with themselves. the instruments, like this gong you see back here, it has literally an infinite number of frequencies that will come out of it, depending on how I play it. And your body latches onto that. And it is reminded to say, hey, there's that frequency that is my natural, I need that back into my body. So what these instruments do, and this is part of the reason like Janine comes on a regular basis, and I encourage people to come at least once a month, because what happens is you start to entrain your body back to its natural resonance to get your different organs, your whole body, and even your mind, your psychology, your spirit, get it back into natural resonance, into harmony with itself. You have to entrain it. You know, when we listen to sounds all day long. So I just got an inverter put in. Thank God I'm productive again. But it has a little fan on it, and the fan makes a constant sound, but it's a pleasant sound for me, so I'm okay with it. I have a new fridge. It makes a very unpleasant sound. So I'm thinking, okay, now that sound from the fridge is entraining my frequencies, and that cannot be healthy for me. So we have to be cognizant of the different kinds of sounds that we introduce into our everyday lives. You know, people, they go to yoga, they go to dentists, they do all kinds of different practices. The one thing that we forget about doing is the one thing that we're made up of, which is vibrations. We are literally sound. This is not me saying this, science tells us this. So everything about us is vibrating. Everything around us is vibrating. We are frequencies. So I always try to encourage people to be cognizant of the sounds that are around you. So how does some of these work, as an example? I don't know if you're familiar with nitric oxide. So nitric oxide was discovered in 1998. And in fact, they won the Nobel Prize for the discovery of this. And nitric oxide is one of these things that is produced in our body through our cells. And it is stimulated by vibration, by sound, that gets it moving through the body. And it's healing. Nitric oxide is healing to the body.
Yes.
So when you come to a sound bath, one of the things that you're experiencing, the reason why people, and you were there, you experienced it, you know, people suddenly don't want to wake up, and they sit up, and then they're like drunk. They're like, whoa, you know, it's because they're getting a super rush of this nitric oxide, which is going through the body and completely healing and balancing the body out. So that's what all of the instruments are designed to do, is to create vibrations that help to release the nitric oxide in the body. So we could go on and on about all kinds of different ways in which our bodies are affected from a scientific point of view, like nitric oxide being released from the vibration from these instruments. That's why sound healing is becoming very mainstream now.
Yeah, you know, I love that, because I'm busy doing an online course with a plant-based, with a doctor, a Western doctor, who's created this plant-based medicine course, actually for doctors. So I'm going very slowly because it's very, very medical and it's very scientific. And the second lecture is about the heart and arteries. So a lot of the discussion is about the mitochondria, which is the gel-like layer of the blood cells. And the way it's kept healthy is through the production of nitric oxide, which is stimulated. I didn't know that it's stimulated and supported by different sound vibrations. Yes. And obviously by a lot of leafy greens and various, green vegetables, which is imperative.
Yes. When you get injured, if I hit myself, the body says, ooh, nitric oxide, there's something going on. I got to send nitric oxide down there.
Yeah.
But sometimes in people, especially when we start getting older, the production of nitric oxide is reduced. And some people, they already have a reduced amount of the ability to produce nitric oxide. So anything that can stimulate that is very, very helpful and useful, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. That's amazing.
So with the food that you're talking about, interestingly enough, food vibrates at frequencies as well, right?
Right. So everything does, like you say.
When you're putting something into your physical body, I can't tell you because I haven't done enough research on it to find out. Like I would be interested to find out because maybe I should look it up now, but at like what frequency does sugar vibrate at? And to see how that vibration is in direct opposition to natural resonance and harmony amongst your various organs in your body. I've been off sugar now completely for the last 3 months. I can tell you, I've done this before, and I had to do it again because of some medical reasons for myself. And I can tell you, it's just life is better without having the sugar.
I know, and it's so highly addictive. So I totally understand. But you're right; it is such a drug. It is such a drug that it really dulls our vibration, no doubt.
Well, with the attraction there is the dopamine that it releases.
Yeah.
Sugar gives you a quick rush of dopamine, like love, and you go, "Oh, yeah, this is good."
Yes.
And when you eat that, it's the same thing as with the vibration and with the sound with these, is that you're entraining your body to want that. So the idea is to entrain it in an opposite way and say you don't want that anymore. So bring in another vibration. I'm on a completely all plant food diet now, and it's just so much better. And I'm totally raw unless I go to a restaurant. And then I might have something that's cooked. But morning I do all fruit in the morning, and in the evening I do all vegetables. So,
one can definitely feel the difference of in your body in terms of density or lightness.
Yes, you certainly can feel that. You know, take an example of certain kinds of music that people listen to. It's no mystery that, let's say you have somebody listening to really hardcore punk or goth or something like that, right? They tend to have a very specific kind of a look, if that's all that they indulge themselves in. If somebody listens to just classical all the time, they have a very specific kind of a look to them, even a kind of a specific demeanor that they seem to have. By the way, there's another practice called music therapy, which is different than what I do. Music therapy is, you can get a PhD in music therapy. That's taught in most universities around the world, and used in a great many hospitals and psychiatric centers around. But we know that, so for me, I consciously, I have an eclectic taste in music, so I consciously listen to a vast array of types of music, so I don't get entrained in one direction. So suddenly I don't become that,
Speaking about, I know you used a multiple of instruments in your sessions. Each one, yes, exactly. And what it makes me think of is, through the course of a day, we are accosted by such a variety of sounds all the time. So I love that when I came and I had a session with you, there was a different array of sounds and obviously vibrations that go along with it. But because you're taking that considered time, lying there consciously, I could feel the sounds that felt at that given time of where I was at in my body had such a gentle calming effect on me, and then some that had quite a worked on my nervous system. And I thought it was quite a special thing to give oneself that quality time, that conscious quality time, to just see how these different vibrations and resonate with your body, and obviously it will be different, I'm sure, every time.
One of the things I always encourage people, whether it's the sound baths, whether it's the counseling or the coaching that I do, whether it's somebody even in business, and that is, get rid of your expectations, right? And just go in and experience what you're experiencing in the moment. When people come into the sound bath, it happens rarely, but it does happen when they come in the sound bath and they want to know what's going to happen to them. Their mind is getting in the way. One of the things that happen in a sound bath is you can go down to a theta state or even to a delta state. In a delta state, that's a very deep sleep. You're still conscious to some extent, but you're in a very deep sleep. And what happens is the mind is getting out of the way. And then the body's blood pressure, everything settles and calms. This is why they put people into an induced coma, so that the body can then heal itself.
Yeah.
When our brain is active and our mind is active, we're interfering with that process. So using the instruments to take you down into that state. So when we do sound baths, there's a very specific order in which we play instruments. It's not the same. It's not the sound baths. Janine, I think yourself, Janine's been there so many times. She can probably tell you that they're very different each time.
Yeah.
And that's because the energy between the participants and the instruments changes. There's different people that are there. So the instruments, and I'm always astounded by it, because when I'm alone, I'm getting a little sidetracked, but what the heck, why not?
It's fine.
When I'm alone prior to the sound bath, and I'm setting up, one of the things that I do is set my own intentions, and then I play all of the instruments to warm them up, and to get them activated. And then I start vocal toning, because I love to vocal tone. And I play it with my mandolina, which I'll pull up here in a second. And so that's very grounding. And when I start vocal toning, singing, it's so beautiful for me when I'm doing that by myself. And then when the people come in and the bath starts, I usually start the bath with vocal toning and the mandolina. And I find that when I'm trying to replicate, which I say, Chris, don't replicate what you just did, because there wasn't anybody here. That was for you. Don't try to replicate them. But, natural instincts of human beings, we go, oh yeah, my brain getting in the way, and go, oh, let me do, that was so beautiful. And the voice just goes, no, I'm not going that direction. I'm going this direction. And the reason why is because there's 15, 20 people out there that are saying, we want to go this direction.
Yes.
And you get out of the way, and then you allow that to happen. So I always say that, because I'm just a facilitator of these instruments. And what's happening is these instruments and the individuals that are there are interacting with each other, right? So I always tell people, I say, get your head out of the way, get your brain out of the way, your mind out of the way, and just go with it, and let these happen. So the thing that I start with, I'll pull one up real quickly. I start with this bad boy, which is mandolina. This is in the key of D. It's just a beautiful, beautiful instrument, right? And so this has bridges that I can put on it to play different kinds of notes. I generally play it just in the D here. And D, and this is A down here. This is very grounding. And if you just, and I play this on the I just play this consistently. Both hands, I can't play both hands now.
Yeah.
So what happens with this is I play this and it becomes very staccato. And that's for grounding. And then I vocal tone with that. And so what that does is people just grounds them and gets them into more relaxed mode. And I usually do this for about 10, 15 minutes on the mandolina.
An instrument, so where's the mandolina from? I'm just curious. I mean, where's it native to?
That's from field time. There's only one place in the world that makes that. It's in a little town in Germany.
Okay.
So I had to order it and then had it shipped in. So yeah, I start with the mandolina and the grounding instruments. Sadly, very few instruments are available in South Africa, so most of them had to come from overseas. I got several from the US. This is an interesting one. This is, I can't see myself, but do you hear it?
Yeah, can hear that. That's great.
So this is a cholo skeleton cactus, and you can't kind of see that end there. Its end was added onto it. It was hollow at one time, and then you can barely see it. There's lots of little nails that are put into it, and then these seeds are put inside of it, and that's what makes the sound. And during a sound bath, it can sound like rain. They call it the rain stick, on how you play them. And this is also very grounding, and it also just kind of makes people float. So that I got from just recently. I was in the States in December, and my uncle had passed away, and he had a whole lot of different art and things in his house. And so they were asking anybody who, they put a list of brains, said, pick the things that you want. And I saw this, I said, oh my God, he's got this amazing rain stick, this really beautiful rain stick made out of a cactus. So I said, please, I would love to have that and introduce that into, so I got this from Arizona. I picked it up in Arizona.
Oh, wow.
In December in Sedona. If anybody's ever heard of Sedona, be Sedona, very amazing spot, amazing place. So these are like little seeds here. I have two of these. They actually strap onto my legs, so I can play them while I'm playing other instruments. So I can play them with my legs. Also very good at grounding. So those came from Mexico. These I actually got in New Mexico, but they're from Venezuela. There's a shop in Mexico from Venezuela. This came from Mexico. That come through?
Yes, beautifully, beautifully, beautifully. That's amazing.
Yeah, so I find when people, I play this, I find people say, I was taken into kind of a story.
Yeah.
My intention behind it is kind of that as well. By the way, when we do these sound baths, the intention of the facilitator is as important as the intention of the people that are participating.
Yeah.
I don't tell everybody they must
Yes.
have an intention, but if you have an intention, you want to bring one. I always say to people, set your intention before, then leave it at the door. Don't bring it in. The instruments already know that intention is there. It's part of you. It already lives there. When you have an intention, it doesn't need to sit in your brain all the time. It's sitting in your being because you've already decided that's what I want. And the instruments will work in tandem with the intention that you bring, in the same way that the instruments will work in tandem with my intention for the bath as well. There's this one that was very interesting. Ocarina. These are called ocarinas. Beautiful bird.
That's lovely. Yeah, beautiful.
Beautiful, beautiful bird. So yeah, that's from, I think that's actually from China. This is from, can you see this?
Yes.
Now this is in the note of C. It's a Tibetan singing bowl. Can you hear it?
Yes. That was lovely.
So these, I have 7 or 8 of these that I just recently got last May. I did the trek up to Everest Base Camp in May.
Oh, wow.
And I went to study with Master Shri at the Kathmandu Sound Healing Center. And he teaches how to use the Tibetan bowls. And so we used these during the teaching. Yeah. And then I said, look, I'm going to take these back to South Africa. But I find these things to be, for me, these instruments are quite sacred. And so I said, I would love it if there was a monk that could bless these. They were made here. Is it possible for a monk to come and bless these? Well, they went to the monastery and they brought a monk over, and for half an hour they chanted over these bowls, and so they've been blessed. And I asked permission, can I bring these out of the country and back to South Africa for the people? And he said, yeah, sure, no problem.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's amazing. I love that. I love that. It reminds me, in 2013, I did one of my teacher trainings, advanced teacher training in yoga, was in India, in Rishikesh. And we had our yoga session every day. And my yoga teacher had just bought a new singing bowl. I didn't know that, but afterwards he told me, and we had finished our yoga, and we did a meditation, and I was feeling a little bit vulnerable, and I was about to get up afterwards, and he said to me, no, sit down. We were all sitting on a roof. Everyone was getting up, and he took this singing bowl, and it was in the note of C as well. And afterwards he told me he just wanted to experiment and just see what it brought up. Anyway, he played it, and I was finished. I was in tears, sobbing. I don't know. I felt like I was releasing lifetimes of stuff. It just brought it all out of my body. And then I went to go and sit at the Ganga, because the ashram was right on the Ganga. But I'll never forget that experience and how powerful it was, sitting with the singing bowl during that session.
What the singing bowl probably did for you at that time, which is what these instruments do, is you were out of natural resonance, you were out of balance, and that instrument played, that particular bowl played for you, and reminded you of what natural resonance was and brought you back into that. And that's what makes you emotional, because it's like, even if we use our minds and we think of a time that I can remember one time, long time ago, I had a very hectic youth, and I had a very active mind, and the mind was constantly chattering. And I'd done a lot of work on myself and so forth. And I remember one time sitting in my living room in West LA, and I was looking out the window, and there's this tree that was just blowing slowly in the wind outside of my house. And I was just staring at it. And then suddenly I said, wow, where's the chatter? And the chatter was just gone.
Yes.
And so it was the sound of that tree and the movement of that tree, that vibration that said, this is who you are.
Yes.
That chatter's not who you are. And the chatter was gone, and it never returned. It left me that day, and never came back. So, yeah.
Amazing. No, you're 100%.
This is another bowl. This is in the key of B, which is our crown chakra.
Very different, to the C, yes.
Depending on how you hit it. By the way, you can play these with anything. That one's with a wood mallet with a leather strap around it. You can play it with a cucumber, a carrot. There's so many, and those all have different sound qualities because they vibrate at different frequencies. Then you have, so this is my favorite instrument. Oh, I shouldn't say that. The other instruments get jealous. Wrong, but so this is a crystal singing bowl, and I have 3 of these, a C, a G, and a F, which is a perfect fifth. That's one of the things I use after the Manolina. That's what starts taking you down deep into a very relaxed state. I only pulled out the C here, not the other one. So if you close your eyes for a moment, can you hear this?
Yes. Oh, okay, is that what it was? I was trying to figure out the other sound.
The chimes.
Yes.
Those are from, I bought those in New Mexico. Did all that
So
come through?
that came through beautifully. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That's amazing that the sound, I'm so excited that the sounds have come through.
Yes, me too.
Yeah.
So this one, that is a ohm tuning fork.
Yes.
So this is the sound of creation. Now, this is 136.10 hertz. I don't know if you're gonna be able to hear this.
I heard that. Do it again.
So it's very quiet. It's you know,
Yes,
I can
but I
barely hear
could
it
hear.
sitting here.
Yeah.
So I use
Daphne,
this.
did you hear it? I just wanted to ask, Daphne, did you hear it? Yes, a little bit. Yeah. I heard it.
So this is used, I use this in my, I use these for the sound baths at the beginning of the sound bath to do that, which is bring on top of the crown chakra. And I can tell you when people experience that for the first time, people say they just go out.
Yes.
Because it's taking you back to the vibration of creation.
Yes.
I use this in one-on-one sessions that I do with people. So I do one-on-one sound therapy sessions with people, sound healing sessions. And so this is taken, I take this and it's placed along all the meridians around the body. And it tells me where it wants to go along the meridian, and the body tells it where it wants it to be placed along the meridian. So you place that and you just simply put it at different places along the meridians of the body. And I just did one the other day up at Maison Noire, and the guy was out. He was sleeping. I finally woke him up. He says, "Where'd I go?" I go, "I don't know." He goes, "Wow, wherever it was cool." So it does take you to a very deep place. These are also tuning forks. I use these, you know how we sometimes use sage to smudge, right?
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Oh, I can feel that feels good.
So I use sound to cleanse.
Yes.
I used to use sage, but then some people didn't like the smell of sage during the sound bath. So I stopped using the sage and I usually use these. It also helps to rebalance you at the beginning of the sound bath. It brings you into balance with what we're doing there. So
Yeah.
there's 2 tuning forks. There's a whole vast array of tuning forks that can be used, and they're used different pitches, different frequencies, different notes for different parts of the body, depending on the individual. So all of these things, over time, you start to understand how they work, and with different people, you can start getting an idea of how you use them. And these are called tinctures, which I also got in Nepal, in Pokhara.
Brilliant. Those are powerful. They come
Very,
through
yes.
so clearly. Yeah.
These are handmade. Do you hear it oscillating? Kind of going.
Yes.
So the reason why that's happening is because each of them are at slightly different pitches. So one might be, so we call it cents on either side of a perfect note. There's 50 cents one side, 50 cents the other side, so it's sharp or flat. And so the cents on either side of a perfect note is not quite lining up. So that gives you that sort of vibration sound, which a lot of people find quite intoxicating when you create that. And that come through?
Yep.
Yeah.
It went right through my spine. I find it like quite delightful, actually.
Yeah, that's a koshi chime. That's from Belgium, believe it or not.
Oh,
Koshi,
wow.
you would think it was from Japan, but no, it's from Belgium.
Totally.
The koshi chimes come from Belgium. I had a lady last week at the bath who, when this I usually bring this at the end, just to kind of, and a lady said, "Wow, when I heard that," she goes, "it was like I found my spirit instrument."
Yes,
I
yes,
said,
absolutely.
"Oh, great! You found your spirit instrument. Fantastic." So, oh, here's something interesting. So, instruments are not the only things that produce healing sounds. You can literally use anything. You've seen people like a wine glass and then they lick it, and you do that you do the circling on the crystal wine glass. You make a sound. That can do it. You can use something like this. So this is from my yard. It's just a.
Oh, wow.
So it replicates sort of the sound of wind or the sound of a bird flying. This particular one I'm going to retire. This has lasted a year.
Wow.
So when I look at this and I say, wow, this has lasted a year like this, it wants to be played.
Yeah.
I mean, these leaves are dead, but they're not falling off.
Yeah.
It just wants to be played. So, but I did say to it, I'm going to retire you, and I'll burn it. That's what I'll end up doing. In a little bit of a ceremony to honor it.
Yes, a ceremony to offer it.
Yes, to give thanks to it. I treat these instruments, very, very well. So you'd be respectful of them because that's part of the energy that you're putting into it, right?
Exactly. I mean, the power of intention is beyond what people realize, hey?
Yes, intention is everything.
Everything, absolutely.
Intention is everything. So my intention when I go in and do a sound bath is to get out of the way.
Yes, well, as healers, I think that's really important to understand.
Yes, it is. And when I'm in the way, I can feel that something not right. Very quickly, I get out of the way. I just feel gone. So yes. So intentions are very, very important, and that's my sole intention is to get out of the way.
Yeah,
and then to enjoy myself. I enjoy the bath. I tell people, thank you for coming, but I got more out of this than you did.
Well, I think it's so important because your level of joy gets shared across and spread across to the group.
Of course, yeah, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we're trained in is, and you will know this probably, and anybody else up there who does any kind of different modalities, that when you're working with people, and in this case with the sound baths or with the one-on-one sessions, there's energies and frequencies that are being released from people there. And so you see, I'm wearing black now because I always wear black when I do sound baths, and that's so that I can absorb.
Yes.
The white will reflect. So I wear black to absorb. And some people have said, well, why would you do that? Why would you want to absorb that? But that's part of our job as a sound facilitator, as a sound healer, is to take those in. And of course, you have to take care of yourself afterward and make sure that you flesh all that out. And I can tell you that how it works, because sometimes after a sound bath, I'm shattered. I have a backache, or I'll have a body aches, or I'll have something going on. And so one of the things I recommend to people after they take a sound bath is to go have a real bath or a real shower. And that will wash off the toxins. Water's a great conductor of vibration.
Changes our frequency.
Yeah, so it's great to do that. I do that, and I eat and I drink lots of water, and then we self-care.
Yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. I mean, I was just thinking when you were chatting, I think you had shared with us when we came for that evening as well, just, and you had shared tonight how each session is so different. And, you know, I can so relate in terms of when I do teach a class and I can have a similar, I have an intention for the week. And sometimes there's a mental, sometimes emotional, and sometimes just a physical. We're going to work on twists, or we're going to work on a pose. But, and as similar as the sequencing is, if I'm doing a live class that has everything to do with the energy of the people who are there at the time, you know, I teach outside, so I've got the mountain, I've got the ocean, and then I've got the combination of the people who are there. And each one will be totally different. So we really are frequency. All of us are this frequency and how we interact with each other. So as a facilitator, to really be able to read that and
it's completely different. Last week was, I felt it, and everybody that was there felt it. There was about 18 or 19 people there, and they all felt it, and I felt it. And I said to them as soon as we finished and they woke up, I said, "Thank you so much." I said, "Wow, I was so gone during the session, and it just felt really amazing to because what are you doing? You're sharing with each other."
yes,
One of the things
totally.
I told people at the beginning of the sound bath, I said, this is your opportunity. You came here. You may not know why you came here, but you're here. If you believe that the only thing that is now, living in the moment, then live in this moment right now and just let yourself go. Whatever
Yes.
happens, let it happen. Whatever connections you have with others, other energies, let that happen. And when you do that, when you can do that in a sound bath, it's amazing. When you do it in yoga, I'm sure it's amazing. When you do it in any kind of modality, it's amazing. And hopefully you're being trained to take that out into the everyday world and allow yourselves to do that in everyday world, at work, with
That's
your
it.
family, you know, with
Yes.
your friends, you know, at a restaurant, you know, to be able to just go with that moment and just whatever comes, let it come, and don't swim upstream.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's getting people, you know, I love that it's becoming more spoken about, a lot of the different healing modalities, and shared across the board, so that as healers we can give people these tools to integrate more into their everyday life. You know, I'm sure coming to regular sound bath sessions, that people's awareness of sound and how it affects them in the day, or how to just sort of use various things to calm oneself down, you know, to understand we are all frequency.
Yeah,
So
and to identify things in your everyday life that are causing
yes,
you the stress. And
yes,
when they talk about stress being one of the number one killers, it makes perfect sense to me because I see what it does in terms of the frequency and the vibrations of the body. So that stress completely shatters the natural resonance of the physical being and of the psychology and of the spirit.
yeah,
And if we can identify the things in everyday life that bring stress into our lives, and then go find the modalities that, like sound baths, these instruments, I can guarantee almost anybody that attends a sound bath, because I don't think I've had anybody who come and said I got nothing out of it. Um,
yeah,
I would guarantee that anybody goes through a sound bath is going to be stress free at the end of it. The anxiety is going to leave them. The fatigue is going to leave them. Even the anger is going to leave them. You can't help but doing that because you're being taken back into natural resonance. It's like when we go out into nature, if we're in a foul mood, or we're stressed, or we're frustrated, or whatever might be happening, or we're not even, let's say we're not even feeling well physically, and we go out into the nature, what happens? What's the first thing that happens? We suddenly feel it's
how,
impossible for anybody to go into nature and to maintain that same level of stress and anxiety and anger. It's just impossible. The reason why is because out there in nature, it's vibrating at natural resonance, and so
yes,
it's bringing you back into that, and your body's going, oh, okay, and you start to calm and you settle, and your blood pressure comes down,
yeah,
and your stress levels, your anxiety levels start to come down, and your whole body starts to slow down. And
absolutely,
this is what these instruments are teaching people to do: slow
yeah,
down, get back into your natural resonance. And if you're physically ill, I use So I went to I had a knee injury, and
Mhm.
I took that knee injury up to Mount Everest, and surprised I made it. But the
Hmm.
knee injury was severe, it was bad. So I went to a chiropractor. He had a very interesting machine, and his machine very rapidly, it makes a very loud noise, very rapidly puts it right onto your bone, in my case in the knee, and then he turns it on and it starts shooting in micro thin streams of air that penetrate your bone about that deep. And it's just, and it hurts badly. And what he says he's doing, what that machine does, is it's stimulating the pain response from the body so that the body says, oh, let's send some white blood cells down there. Let's send some nitric oxide down there. Something's happening. We need this to heal. Because in my case, the injured knee, I wasn't getting those white blood cells, wasn't getting that nitric oxide coming down there. And then we talked about what I do in terms of sound healing. It says basically we both do the same thing. And I said,
Yeah.
yeah, I said, you're absolutely right. We do the same thing. So you'll find that sound healing is really the future.
Yeah.
And the amount of beautiful experiment that's happening right now with, if anybody knows what harmonic resonance is. So when you have harmonic resonance, it's taking something that's vibrating at a certain frequency and you introduce that exact same frequency to it. When you do that, it causes the frequency to vibrate exponentially. It just goes crazy. As an example, how that works, recently they built a new footbridge in London across the Thames. And people, on opening day, thousands and thousands of people came to go onto that bridge. And they were so close together because there were so many crowds that they started to walk in a cadence. And that cadence then is a frequency, right? And that cadence matched the frequency that the bridge naturally vibrates at. And so it was causing a harmonic resonance. And the engineers were there that day, and immediately they understood what was happening. And they shut the bridge down, they took everybody off of it. And then they went about to fix the problem, and they had to fix the problem. When you've seen those videos of full-on suspension car bridges that collapse in storms or in the wind, it's not the wind that's blowing them down. It's not the force of the wind. The force of the wind can't possibly blow over a bridge. It's because the wind is vibrating at a frequency that matches the frequency of the bridge. So it's creating a harmonic resonance, and then the whole thing just starts to vibrate wildly and it shatters itself. So using that concept, they've gone through and they've isolated certain cancer cells. These amazing scientists that are doing this at the moment, these researchers, they isolated a cancer cell and what its frequency was. And I think they went through something like 1 million frequencies to figure out what this particular cell's frequency was. And when they identified the frequency, they bombarded just that cell with its own frequency. And lo and behold, on camera, it shattered. Now, why that's significant is because with any kind of a disease that the body has, it's not invasive. You're just simply sending a sonic wave into the body, matching frequency of whatever the damaged cell is. And there's no heat. It won't damage other cells because it's not vibrating at the same frequency of the other cells. And so this will be the future of cancer, and other types of research are going to be using sound to bombard the things in the body that aren't healthy and that aren't like cancer cells.
I think that's amazing. That to me is absolutely amazing. I just love that. So that was a conversation that was sort of brought to light for me when I was diagnosed, and my naturopath shared that. My integrated oncologist was a Chinese medicine doctor, and he had also he advocated that, but kind of newer. So I was looking into that. So I think that would be the most brilliant moving forward for healing.
It's absolutely the future. By the way, sound healing is not new. It's been around for 2,000 years. Actually,
No, sure, but what I mean, it hasn't been used. It's not used frequently in the Western world yet.
It probably would have, but in the 1920s, 1930s of the last century, modern medicine moved so heavily into pharmaceutical medicine,
Yeah.
and the pharmaceuticals became such huge monoliths that nobody was going to test anything else. They wanted to stick with even today. We go to a doctor. What's the first thing he says is take these pills.
Yeah.
I went to a doctor recently and I said, I'm not taking these pills. I'm going to do something else. And I'll
Yeah.
try it for a while. If I feel like I'm on death's door, give me your pills. But let me see if I can't rebalance the body, the part that's injured, and see if I can't make this right in another way, in a more natural way.
Yeah.
Wait, let me play. Those are called flumies.
Okay.
So it's a rubber ball on a stick. It's another kind of a flumie. So
Yes.
the gong can be played other than just a big mallet, which is that.
Wow.
You can play these and produce an enormous amount of frequencies and notes out of them.
And I know how loud the gong is.
And you can play a gong with your hand.
That's amazing. I love that.
So yeah, there's all kinds of different ways to play these things.
So tell us, when do you have the sound baths? Just so that those that are still here, I want them to know when you do have these sessions so they can.
So generally in Cape Town, in Hout Bay, on Wednesday nights at 7 o'clock to about 8:30. I also do it at Mount Nelson Hotel, and I also do it at Maison Noire if you want to go to Maison Noire's spa.
And is it open to the public at Mount Nelson? Because I live close by. I'm in Friederhoek.
Yeah, Mount Nelson, you would, if you did I wouldn't organize a sound bath there. They would have clients that would say, we would like to have a sound bath.
Okay, that's
or you do a one-on-one session over there in the spa, and the same thing at Maison Noire. Otherwise, I do in Hout Bay, I do every Wednesday, and I'll probably start moving on the other side of the hill soon.
Okay.
And I'll show you something else here. This will be interesting for your crowd to see. Let's see if I can pull this up quickly. So I've decided, so I have a lot of instruments, and setting them up is, it takes time. And I have a helper to set them up and to strike them down. And because I want to bring this kind of modality to more people, I've decided to build something in Cape Town. I'll show it to you now.
Oh, wow, that looks amazing, Chris.
So
Where's that?
I'm going to build this in Cape Town.
Ah,
We love that. Lovely. Where are you planning to build it?
I don't want to say now because I have some meetings I'm going to have of a place on the other side of the hill,
Okay.
Sort of the Constantia Tokai area.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. That
Yeah.
looks amazing. So
that'll end up being a sound healing facility center, and there will be sound baths all day. There will be one-on-one sessions that people can get in different rooms. There will be teaching how to do sound work. Yeah, it's gonna sound journeys, gong baths, didgeridoos, the whole thing. So it's and 7 days a week. So it's going to be something available and hopefully become sort of an icon of Cape Town. It's
That
called
fantastic.
Energy.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I can see Mr. Michael Thomas from Ireland, when he comes to Cape Town, is going to want to come and visit you straight away.
yep. That was one of the things of my list of things that I was going to say is like, we have to get together. And so when you were doing the one in the key of the crystal bowl in the key of C, I actually came up with a tune for it. So I'm like, okay. So, and there was a lot of things, you know, with the gong, playing the gong and the different sounds and whatnot. They're very inspiring. And when I come there, we could do some collaboration. And I have to say also, well, that's one thing, but
If you were interested, he means.
if you were interested, but I think
Always
it's gonna be,
interested.
we're on the same, you know, there's so many things that are on the same sort of wavelength. The thing with you wearing black, well, when I gig, you know, I do a lot of gigs, I wear black. And then come Monday morning, I'm exhausted. I'm just done. I'm spent. And one of the ways to reset and recover is to take a bath and listen to meditative music and just reset myself for the next weekend. And it's sort of what you're saying, because what I try to do is play music that you know, that is healing, that is helpful, that is thought-provoking type music. And so what you're saying about absorbing sort of these energy of the people, you know, you're absorbing that, and it almost feels like that's what I'm doing. And then by the end of it, you know, the end of these shows, I'm just exhausted and I need to, all right, release that. And that was like to me, it was a perfect explanation of what happens to me every week.
It's absorbing what they don't need anymore.
Yeah. And so that was really good. Sorry, I don't mean to take up this time, but there's so many things like, geez, I never get to talk to anybody about this stuff. But was it the pinchas?
The what?
The chimes. The chimes?
The pinchas.
Yeah, those. So yeah. So I have that on my first album. So a friend of mine, he toured the world, and he was a percussionist, and he was a percussionist for a well-known Latin singer. And he would tour the world, and his thing was like collecting all this stuff, collecting every kind of percussion thing that you could come up with. And I said, you know, well, I have this sound that I hear, and I don't know how to achieve it. So I went to his house, and he had a 2-car garage packed with stuff. I mean, when they were touring, he had 15 road cases, you know, so he had a lot of percussion stuff. But
I'm the same way. I have a sound in my head when I first started doing this. I knew every one of these instruments were going to come, and I had to get them. And there was this very specific kind of a sound that I was hearing. And I wasn't just hearing it because it was something that was supposed to be pleasant for me. I was hearing a sound that I knew was going to resonate.
Yeah.
And so when I play, most of the people that I see, some amazing sound healing facilitators in Cape Town, most of them play very few instruments compared to what I do. And what I'm working towards is to be able to play 5, 6 instruments simultaneously.
Mhm.
Just because there's this very specific sound
Yeah,
that's being driven into my head to saying, this is the sound you need to produce.
sort
I
of
haven't
having one
electrified yet
resonate while another
because,
one goes on top.
yeah, I haven't electrified yet because I'm staying pure for the moment, but
Yeah, yeah.
it may involve having to electrify at some point.
Amazing. Is there anybody else that has any questions while we still have Chris in the house? Let me see everybody. Galaxy A32. Is that you, Janine? Janine said something really interesting. I mean, when we were talking about stress, and it's true. It's also, well, if one can, but if you can identify your body stress and then release it during a sound bath, you know, that happened for me as well when I came to see, when I experienced your sound bath. I mean, I have severe neck injury, long-standing neck injury, and there was a section of it where excruciating pain came through with some of the instruments. Just or one maybe brought out like it was a gong.
The gong is generally one that shakes things up.
Yeah.
It really rattles things inside that are stuck, and it gets you unstuck.
Yeah.
And it can get pretty loud, and it can be pretty, I don't want to use the word aggressive, but it gets
yeah, I think so. I mean,
yeah,
it was very strong. It was intense. I think I found it almost violent. But
I remember you saying so, yes.
Yeah, and then it passed at the end of it. Thank you, Kerry. Kerry just said it's been really interesting. I love reading everybody's and attention holding. Thank you, Chris. She says thank you, Kerry. Yes, so it was quite amazing because by the end of the session, I was totally fine. It had released some kind of almost like an entity of pain. It brought it pulled out of my body. So I think just to tie things together, just to remind everybody that Chris does do sound bath sessions, like you said, once a week on Wednesdays. I'm going to send everybody your website, and they can get hold of you. Is that your preferred medium? And then the hashtag Chris Soundbath.
My preferred media is WhatsApp. That's how I book everybody.
Me too. I must say, I'm also
easy for everybody and me.
If you could send me tomorrow morning, or maybe when we finish now, just a little just 2 lines of like, this is how to get hold of me on WhatsApp, then I can just send it and forward it to everybody in the group.
Okay.
Yes. And I just wanted to say a huge thank you to you for coming on tonight, for sharing the magic of sound. Mara said thank you, and it's very inspiring. Some people had to leave early, but they loved it, and it just made sense of how powerful this medium is. So I'm just delighted. I must say I'm going to sort of shuffle some things around, Chris, and see if I can get to another sound bath session. I always just teach on Wednesday night, so but I want to make sure I can try and come through again and experience it, and I'll get Mr. Thomas to come through as well when he visits. So yes, so Chris, thank you again so much for coming on to Conversations. I so appreciate it. I love the variety. I love the magic of it. Please keep us posted about your sound healing center that you're creating.
Yes. Energy Sound Pyramid.
Yeah, so send all of that, information on our group. I love that. Thank you, Chris, and thank you everybody for joining this evening. Just a quick reminder to all of you that are on, please remember next month on the 27th, Dela Del Mont is on. She's an animal communicator. Pretty amazing. I've sent all the little YouTube documentary on her, so join us then. But just a hearty thank you to Chris for joining us in the kitchen, and feel free to come and join us anytime again.
Very
So,
grateful. Lots of gratitude and love.
lots of love. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, everybody. Go and have a good evening and a good week. Look
everybody.
after yourselves.